Hi, everyone. I'm here with the book fairy godmother herself, Miss Debbie Horovitch. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here.
We knew we had to start recording because we were already going into so much that's so valuable for all of you. So I cannot wait to have this conversation. I just have to start off by saying, Debbie, as soon as I heard you speak in any context, I said to myself, she is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. I need to learn and be in her space and just, learn from you because it's amazing, amazing, amazing. So let us start off with, first of all, your background in publishing, because I'd love to just hear a little blip of that backstory of how you entered this world.
I've been fascinated by books since I was a kid, right? So I grew up in the countryside with no cable, and my parents didn't want me watching TV, so they had books, and both my parents were teachers. So we had a room, the den, which was filled with an entire wall of books. I've been fascinated with books and fascinated with authors, like just amazed by authors. And I think it's because I grew up in such an isolated way that I could see authors were the center of attention. Authors could do anything. Authors were the most amazing people, especially if you got to meet them and they were like talking to you. You're like, oh my God, I read your book every night. It's so amazing. So it was natural for me. My career took me into advertising as a media buyer. So I got into television and newspapers and magazines. But I never stopped having that love for books and for authors and that fascination. And when I became self-employed myself, I wanted to find out, how is it that some of these people that I'm seeing all over the place in media, speaking on stage, they're all best-selling book authors. And I didn't realize that that was the big connection, that I had made the big connection, was that people were becoming best-selling book authors so that they could be on television and in newspapers and in magazines everywhere. And I was like, oh my God, I've just spent 13 years buying media space for advertisers. I spent over $375 million on media ad space. So I know how media channels work. And I realized, oh my God, there's books and we have control. We have the opportunity. You don't have to spend money significant. You don't have to spend millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. All you have to really do is put in time and energy. And very often that equates to money, a small amount or a significant amount, whatever your choice is. But we're democratized now. So I got into, I was transitioning my career after 13 years. Around 2008, the economy changed and advertising took a hit. I was unemployed mostly for better part of 18 months. And during that time, I spent the majority of my time on Facebook using it as a platform, using it to connect, using it to realize, oh my God, here's Facebook, which has given me the ability to create my own media channel in my followers. My audience is my friends. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to treat Facebook like a newspaper. It's my newspaper. I'm the editor. I'm publishing every single day. What am I publishing for them? Who else am I sharing? What am I talking about? What's my editorial profile? What's important to me? Right? So I started working with authors, I guess by luck in 2008. I hope my computer hasn't frozen. But okay, so I started working with authors in 2008. And it has been one of those things where I keep on coming back.
Yeah.
I've worked with book retailers. I've worked with book publishers in my career. I've worked with individual authors. And then in 2015, I finally got over the fear of really taking control of publishing. And I started publishing books for other people. After a couple of years of publishing books myself and discovering, how to do it. And it's something that I am so passionate about, because working with authors gives me a type of fulfillment in my life that I have never experienced. I mean, when I became a certified yoga instructor, Moksha Yoga, or now known as Modo Yoga, in 2004, that shifted a lot of things for me. I went from being a very superficial person to really becoming more grounded in myself and connected to breathing and what is that one thing that I need to get across to people in my life. And I couldn't do media buying anymore. Once I was in yoga, I sat at my desk at the office and I'm like, I'm a glorified money launderer. What's the point of all of this? Like, why am I doing this? I'm getting paid well, but I'm not helping anybody.
Yeah.
What is the word? So when we work with authors, we're fulfilling people's life streams. We're giving people the opportunity to go after their full potential in their life. Like, yes, life is short. I mean, I prefer to believe life is long, and I want to live it well every single day. But life is short. We don't know how long it is. In 160,000 years that humans have been on the face of the earth, we're here for this amount of time. Can you make an impact with your life? When your life is over, will you still be making an impact? Mm. And when you become a published book author, that's the potential. That's the road that you start yourself on. When you're not a published book author, your voice stops the day that you die.
Woo! Mic drop right there. Right? That's why we do this. The legacy that lives on in our words, in these books that will beyond just our generation here, our lifetime. This is for our children, our grandchildren, our family. Woo! Woo!
And it's not just about money, but it's about potential to impact generations of people that you know and that you don't know, all of whom you want to help. It gives me chills, right? I feel like I got to go do some yoga now.
Yeah. Okay, everyone, we'll be back in 5. No, just kidding. One thing that you and I talked about before we hopped on this call was this permission slip. And this topic of the easy street author versus the struggle bus author is something that fascinates me, because it's not just the book that gives you the money or the status or whatever it is. It's a vehicle. So I want you to talk a little bit more about this like permission slip and just remind us here today what this is really about.
Yeah. So here's the thing that most authors come into the experience, whether you're coming in as a solo author for the first time looking to get published and working with someone like Bridget or myself, or you're starting with a multi-author book experience where all you really have to do is write the book, and most of the other elements are taken care of for you. So it is, I think, a multi-author book experience to start with is probably the best way for inexperienced authors to get their feet wet, because it does 2 things. One, it really teaches you the most important things that you need to know about becoming a published book author without overwhelming you with the other things, which can be very frustrating and time consuming, and you can end up in the end, and money consuming, you can end up in the end still frustrated and dissatisfied. If you don't know the process, if you don't have someone guiding you through the process. the multi-author book experience is the most similar experience that you can get as a new author to a traditional publishing experience, where you're not responsible for creating the cover. You're not responsible for the final editing. You're not responsible for the timeline of your book. This is the most similar experience that you can possibly have, and it's less costly. It's easier, it's faster. So what happens is, I think, because and perhaps this is a little bit our fault, because I've published a few multi-author books as well. We almost make it a little bit too easy sometimes, and we cater to our authors too much. And so they have this idea that their previous beliefs about publishing, that the historic and generational beliefs about book publishing are the truth, which book publishing has existed for over 600 years, since the invention of the Gutenberg press and the B42 Bible, which is a 42-page Bible, which was the very first book published on the Gutenberg press. So, and that was, I believe, 1467. Right, so there is history. There is no other career path that you can choose as a human being on the face of the earth. That's what sets human beings apart from all other animals, is our ability to publish books, our ability to tell stories in a way that is enduring past our lives. Right? That's what makes us better. And different. And so here's the permission thing. Throughout history, for 600, nearly 600 years now, book publishers, their whole business has been about producing the physical book and distributing it to retail places where it can get in front of the readers. That was their whole job. And because only physical books existed for the majority of the last 600 years, generations upon generations upon generations of people have been taught, if you can become a published book author, like the authors of the Bible, which is a multi-author book that was written over a 1,600-year period by different authors. Each different author wrote their own book within the Bible, right? Amazing to realize you're participating in something that humans have been doing for hundreds of years. Like, whew. Right? And imagine where your book could be, this book that you're in right now, that you've already been published in or that you're working on right now. Imagine where that could be in 500 years. Of course, you're going to be long dead by then. But what will your book be doing for people in 500 years? What will that message be doing for people? And how will that happen if you decide to make it happen, right? Because the whole thing about books and about publishing is about you decide in your head, I'm going to do this. It's completely democratized. Book publishers no longer have control of the process. They're no longer gatekeepers. They behave like gatekeepers because they reject the majority of people. And that still is, if you are a traditional book publisher, that is a part of the mandate. You have to review manuscripts. You have to choose. Some manuscripts are not right for you to publish and others are. And you have to reject the majority. And so they're always going to be founded and succeeding and growing their businesses, which is fine. But based on colonialism and based on patriarchy and based on racism and based on these things that we just don't want to participate in anymore. And the whole thing is, We're going to publishers, we're going to publicists, we're going to marketing people and publishers and like anybody, and asking them for their permission, asking them for their recognition of our work. When that approach is, it puts you in a dynamic that isn't about you taking control, isn't about you respecting and appreciating the responsibility that you have for your success in life, for your legacy. Nobody cares other than you. Unless you make them care. Really, right? Like nobody cares. If you do nothing with your life, people are going to feel badly. And if you do amazing things with your life, people are going to feel great, but they're not going to do anything to change it for you. You're the only one who can do something to change it. And so no matter what your situation is with your book, if you want to improve it, take control. Don't look for permission. Decide, even if you want a traditional publisher, and you may very well, there's nothing wrong with wanting a traditional publisher. They do serve a really amazing purpose. When you can get a good publishing deal, when you already have a platform established, when you've already been published and experienced, when you're a more sophisticated author, you can get a good traditional publishing contract that will complement everything you want to do in your business. That traditional publishing contract, because traditional publishers have the established network of book distribution, they can give you exposure that you don't already have built. So you could create it for yourself, absolutely, but it would take you years and years and years of effort and lots of money. And do you really want to spend the rest of your life trying to build what's already been built? Right? So there's options, but it really is about recognizing that you can do anything, that everything is there for you to decide. And yes, many things have money associated with them. They have costs associated with them, but that's the beautiful thing, is that it's democratized. You pay the same price the big corporations and the big publishers pay. Right? So what's the difference? What's to stop you from generating a whole lot more support in the form of money in your book, for your book, even in advance of publishing, or if you've already published, doing a relaunch, launching into a new marketplace that never really was exposed? There's no, right? Like you can get major support in the form of audiences that are given to you, are loaned to you, or shared with you. And those are worth money, as well as in the form of actual money to support your new launch. Right?
Absolutely.
Which means now you can do anything, because money isn't even an option. Money won't hold you back, because you can get money. Just find other organizations that are sharing the same message as you, that are trying to help the same people in similar ways.
Yeah, let's dive into this a little bit, because this is where like those creative ideas come in, and something that is very apparent in book publishing and being an author is there are unlimited ways that you can share now that you've published the book, or maybe you're in the process of it. So I'd love to just hear off the top of your head, what are some really creative ideas that people can use to share not only a multi-author book, but a solo author book that they maybe just wrote, or maybe they're thinking of writing?
Well, I mean, I'll share my own personal experience, right? Like I became a publisher because I started publishing my own books, and I started publishing my own books because I just wanted to figure out how the F people are doing that, how they're getting published, without a traditional publisher. Is there a way that I can figure it out and do it myself. So when I made the decision, I said, okay, here, this is it. I've got an idea for a book. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to get this book published. Now, the next thing I need to do is announce it and get some support around it. Get my Facebook friends and my, Instagram, if you're over there. I wasn't on Instagram at the time. I'm still not. Look for me on Facebook if you're looking for me. And so what I did, my very first book, I had a terrible working title, but it worked to describe what the book was about. If I can remember it properly, it was how to gain the influence, gain or generate the influence of celebrities to your online content using Google Plus Hangouts on Air, which was Google Plus Hangouts on Air was the early YouTube live stream videos in 2013. And almost nobody was focused on just that video platform. And so I was one of the very first people to start talking about, here's how you can use Google Plus Hangouts on Air. So I had Google actually looking at me and my program and what I was doing. And I did have celebrities and influencers joining me. And that had given me the idea, okay, now I'm going to create a course around it. But really where I started was I want to write a book and become a published book author. So this is my book idea. Without even realizing it, after 6 episodes of a monthly interview show with book authors, I was like, okay, my book is about Google Plus Hangouts on Air. I never thought I'd write a book about Google Plus. Who likes Google Plus? Nobody. It doesn't even exist anymore. But I dove in and like it was the greatest experience. It gave me focus. When you know what you're writing about, when you know who your audience is, then you can announce it. You can announce it. And so that was it. I posted on my Facebook nothing but a text. I said, I'm super excited to announce that I'm writing the book, How to Gain the Influence of Celebrities to Your Online Content Using Google Plus Hangouts on Air. And I did put in brackets, this is a working title. So, I'm likely to change it. I don't know when it's going to get published. I don't know if it's going to be traditionally published or self-published. I don't care. I am the author of this upcoming book. And when I started to say that everywhere, I'm the author of this upcoming book, people were like, oh, really? Tell me more about your book. Tell me more about what you do. They were starting to look for, and I didn't realize this right away, but they were looking for ways that they could participate. And I think a lot of the time it's because they have a secret dream themselves of becoming a published author. Like, who doesn't? Mm-hmm. Right? And so whether your book is about something, the topic of your book and the topic of your expertise in your business is about something that you can sell to them or not, just having that tool to open up a conversation with people everywhere, all the time, easily, without branding, without copywriting, without a website, without photographs, without anything, just making the commitment to yourself in the universe that no matter what, you're going to get the message out there and announcing that. What that brought to me, within 3 weeks, I was speaking on stage at conferences that were Google and SEO focused conferences. I had never spoken on stage. I'd never, I had spoken on stage before, but it was all about social media, which was my expertise. I was a social media community manager. And so I would speak about social media, and I did a little bit of speaking about Google and the impacts of your social profiles on Google searches. And I always thought that might get me speaking at the Google conferences, but it didn't. It was only the Google Plus Hangouts on Air because I was the only one. And I was the only one who had said, I'm writing a book about it, right? So now companies and people who are influential want the opportunity to expand their own platform by reaching out to me and potentially telling me their story or having me work with them, having me consult for them to do their Google Plus Hangout on air, because they want to participate in the writing of my book, because they want to potentially be a case study in my book. If things work out when they've hired me as a consultant, I'm going to write about them in my book because I can, because it helps my audience, because I need these experiences. And so what's wrong with saying I'm writing about a book about this expertise and I need to talk to more people? I'm looking for more clients so that I can write about you in my next book, right? That consulting, when I was speaking on stage, so they asked me to moderate 2 panels and speak on another. So I had 3 speaking engagements in one 3-day conference. During that, I was sitting in the audience at one, watching my friend up on stage. And I got an email message from someone who I'd known on Twitter that I'd interviewed. I'd done a tweet chat with previously, about 6 months earlier. She had a new job with a university that was focused on digital content and digital businesses. They were looking for a consultant to help them create their new live stream, to help them promote an upcoming conference through the university. The university is government funded. So whenever they need to hire a consultant, they need to hire a local, a Canadian national. We're in Canada here. And so I was the only person they could find when they Googled Google Plus Hangouts on Air, Canadian consultant. I was the only one who came up, and I'm writing a book about it. That was a $40,000 contract. That was about 4 months of very, very part-time consulting. And they're government funded. So, it was her job to issue budget to me to consult on that media channel. But it all started because I put it out on my Facebook profile. I didn't wait for permission. I didn't wait for copywriting. I didn't wait for anyone to help me improve it. I put it out there as bad as it was, and I said, I'm going to improve it over time. Watch me.
Yeah. I want to stop here because this is so simple. And a lot of the times it's the simple steps that are overlooked. So if anyone is listening to this right now that has not made any type of announcement that they are going to be a published author around X time, or they've already been published and they have not talked about it yet, or maybe you haven't continued to talk about it, it is time. And that's the thing. You said something important before we talk too, that we have this idea that the book creates the sales in the business, but we have to breathe the life into the book and hold the book up with us to elevate us at a certain level to then bring more people to us. The book doesn't change us. No, we have to choose it to change us.
Yes. I mean, things do change us. We also embrace change. But it's really the idea about a book. The fact of the matter is a book isn't an inanimate object. You are just inventing a product that you then need to market and sell. Just because you've invented something doesn't mean anybody knows about it. There are many, many, many unpublished books. There are many, many published books that nobody knows about. Yeah. Right? And they're good books. And also, here's the other thing to consider, and like you can tell that I've been fascinated by books my entire life. Some of the most impactful books to humankind, right? Like my favorite book is Think and Grow Rich. It was first published in 1937. I could not read that book. I couldn't read it when I was 23. But when I picked it up again off my bookshelf 20 years later and read it, oh my God, so good.
So
it
good.
is such a good book. And I hope that everyone gets a copy of it when they're in their early 20s and hopefully reads it. But if you don't, it doesn't matter, because it will come off your bookshelf when you need it to, when you're ready for it. So here's the thing. Even Think and Grow Rich did not find its audience right away. It was decades of writing. He took 25 years to interview all those people to write the book. And then it was decades after the book was published that it finally found its groove. And it wasn't published and then not promoted. It was published and promoted and promoted and promoted, and you learn things, and you, right? Like you're not ready to go on Good Morning America tomorrow, right? If Good Morning America called you and said, we'd like you to fly out and interview with us tomorrow, you probably would. But the fact of the matter is you're not ready. And you would much rather they call you today and say, we'd like you to come out in 3 months and interview with us, because then you would have time to prepare, right? You need to promote yourself every single day to prepare, so that when Good Morning America calls and they say, we need you tomorrow to fill in a spot because someone just got sick and can't make it, you want to jump on that opportunity and you want to be ready. And if you've been promoting to your friends and to your family and learning how to do that without being selly, without being overly selly, like learning how to sell the benefits. And it's not even selling, it's just talking about, just sharing your passion for it and sharing how it opens up doors for you. Yeah, I think I might have forgotten your question and not even answered it. So I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I get on these passion tangents when I talk about books.
Exactly what you just said. You know, people can feel our passion, and that's contagious. It's contagious. So as anyone who's listening to this also, I want you to think about, have you been sharing this from a place of excitement? Or has there been any fears around it? People can feel that. Just simply step up into the decision that you made to do this, that you are going to become a published author, or you maybe already have been published with me. And I want you to stand loud, and I want you to stand proud, and simply share this from a place of, I was inspired to do this because I know that my voice is here to help thousands and thousands of people. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the next day, but maybe the next day after that, and maybe 10 years from now, whatever it is, we have to claim it. We have to claim it. We have to claim it. Where I want to go to close out the conversation is, I know all of us are like, what's the tangible thing, right? The question I've always been asked in a lot of our weekly calls is, how do I actually make a sale off the back end of the book? You know, how do I actually do that? So I'd love to get your expert opinion in maybe even your own experience or working with clients, Debbie, of how they've been able to sell their products or services off of the book.
Okay, so the book, how the book works is a tool. Even if the book is not directly about your business, and the book is not, you know, like it's easier with solo books to say, well, the book is all about their buying objections. And so it neutralizes buying objections so that anyone who reads the book is ready to buy from me, which that's easy. But with a multi-author book, what you're really doing is you're elevating your own authority. You're changing how people see you. And it's a lot like, I say, your book is a lot like a superhero cape. You can take it on and you can take it off and put it on at will. But when you're not wearing it, you're just a normal person. Nobody knows that you're a published book author if you're not wearing the cape, if you're not showing it, if you're not showing up as a superhero to your readers. And letting people know everywhere you go, oh, look, there's the superhero, right? Because they can see it, because everywhere you go. So I think the tangible thing is, for authors of a multi-author book, as long as the theme is clear in the book, you can find the media channels that also speak about those same messages, those same topics, and you can really just do it by Googling what is the main keywords that you want to talk about, that you want to become known as an authority for, because that's what the point of the book is, right? It's to give you, the point of becoming published and participating in a multi-author book is to give yourself more authority, so that when people come to you knowing that you're a published book author, they're more willing to pay a premium price to work with you. They're more willing to apply and go through a process to be able to work with you, to be chosen to work with you. And you become more exclusive and more of an expert. So I think that the main thing to do is to start contributing conversations, creating conversations and curating conversations in high authority communities. And that would be associated with the media channels, because those media channels is where organizations that are spending millions of dollars a year to reach those same audiences that your content is reaching, they're spending money over there. Why shouldn't they spend some money with you? So is that tangible enough, or is that too still out there?
No, I think it's great. And
okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is, so the book that most of us in this space are talking about is called Success Codes, all about redefining success. And we can use those keywords to go on Google to find some types of publications that are speaking about this topic directly. We can contact them, we can communicate, we can tell them what's up, because think about it, it's a win-win for both organizations. We want more people to read this book. They want to have more resources for their readers on this topic, right?
Exactly. So you can, there's many ways that you can engage and participate with the media beyond just buying advertising space, which they will sell you advertising space until you have no money left. I don't recommend that being your first approach. I recommend your first approach be observe, participate, be the perfect audience member to them for a little while first. Once you've found the medium that you want to engage with and become known by and participate with and contribute to, and then I want you to start creating conversations where you can invite some of the influencers that you're seeing on that media channel to participate in your conversation on your territory. So that I did that with my Google Plus Hangouts on Air show. I created a show where I interviewed best-selling book authors and aspiring book authors. And I gave that content. I wrote an article for Forbes about how to it was a guide on how to host the ultimate Google Plus Hangouts on Air, and how to get celebrities on it. And so I wrote an article for Forbes about Google Plus Hangouts on Air. And I sent it to a journalist for Forbes who had been on my show 3 times already. and had started connecting with my celebrity book authors and interviewing them in Forbes and in Harvard Business Review, where she later also mentioned me. Right? I invited her onto my show because she was an upcoming book author. And media channels want to interview book authors. Books and media channels are like this. They always have been. Traditional publishers and media channels are they're one and the same. They're the same companies very often. So right, like it's normal for books to be in media. It's normal for authors to be in media. That is our place in society. We are the curators of conversation. And our books are enduring. Newspaper conversation, today's newspaper lines tomorrow's birdcage, right? Like that's the old saying from 30 years ago. You can tell I was in media, traditional media, before digital even came out. But it's.
So many thoughts here, and I'm excited to continue this conversation with the women inside of this container. And for you, Debbie, I'm just so curious, what's coming up for you? What are you doing? Are you still working with authors?
I definitely am. I definitely am. I think what's really different about me as a publisher is that I don't tend to work with a lot of authors. I work very closely with my authors, and I tend to work with authors who have been published already. Whether in a multi-author book, or very often they were self-published in the last 2 to 5 years, but are not happy with with what it created for them. And there's no reason, if you were self-published 2 to 5 years ago and your book is a flop, it doesn't have to stay a flop. You can just breathe life back into it, completely renew it, refresh it. No one will remember that it ever existed before other than you. And you can see it turn from a caterpillar into a butterfly, right? Like there's nothing that you've done in your life that was a waste, that you can't still leverage, that you can't still see amazing miracles come out of. Or if you were traditionally published in the last 5 to 10 years and your book has been delisted, or they're just not promoting it, but you still believe in it and you want to republish or take charge of your book for the first time in your life, I tend to work with people who are very established in their businesses and very established, really, platforms. But they're just not getting what they want from their books. Right? So I don't work with a lot of people, but I do work over a very long time with my clients. So I encourage people, if you're thinking, if you would like my help to work with you, and it's not to say that I have only high-priced services, but I do work in a large commitment way, right? I don't work with my authors. I'm not their publisher or marketer just for the time that they're paying me. I know that the impact, even during the time, just the time that they're paying me, the impact of my work will have an impact for them if I allow it to, forever. And so I, like it's I have a very close relationship with a lot of my clients, which is over years and even decades for some. So I'm happy if anyone would like to work with me. I don't have any specific projects. Like I'm not working on any multi-author books at the moment. But if you are looking to refresh the book that you self-published years ago, or if you want a really easy way to move from multi-author book, even into your own solo book, one of the things, and Bridget can do this as well, is help you take your chapter from the multi-author book and transform it into your own solo book. It doesn't have to be difficult. Like it's so much of a yoga approach.
Mm-hmm.
We choose to resist, or we choose to just let it be easy and flow. And so you can take the work that you've already done. And I had a client who took her chapter from the multi-author book that we published. That was the chapter was the front of the book, the introduction. And then she added another introduction, and she added recipe pages, journaling pages, some yoga exercises, and it became a lifestyle book that she could give to her clients that sells her services. And it was a very easy process. We had it all done for her about 3 months. And her individual book actually came out the same time as within about a month of when the multi-author book came out. So she really was able to leverage both, the excitement of both happening at the same time. And, you know, the more books that you have on your Amazon Author Central, the more books that you have with more reviews. That's where having a multi-author book on your Amazon Author Central page is a really good thing, because you've got multiple people adding reviews and adding search engine optimization to that page. So yeah, there's everything.
I love it. And I really appreciate you talking about how from this yogic perspective, it doesn't have to be so challenging. And if you think about everyone who's in this space, you've probably been writing content on your page for years. And you probably have like 5 books worth of content, worth of information right there that can be a book in itself. So I really appreciate your perspective and this permission slip I feel that you've given us all today, and your knowledge, your wisdom. So grateful. Our links, your links should be in this interview as well. So if anyone feels called to get in Debbie's world, friend her on social media. She posts some really incredible things, some great inquisitive questions that I think are important for all of us to be asking as authors and business owners. So I appreciate you, Debbie, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope to hear from your audience, and I'm happy to chat with anyone.
Thank you, Debbie. Have a beautiful day.